Good morning, Grace.
Hey, good morning.
How are you today?
Really good, actually. Yeah, it's a beautiful rainy day here, and I love being out in the rain. It's gorgeous.
Yay. Isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
It
What
feels
about you?
so
How are you
peaceful.
going? Yeah, it is
Yeah,
beautiful.
same actually. Same. Had a lovely walk this morning and um, a cuppa with Bex, which,
Oh, nice.
I know today we want to talk about abundance, but, we had some great feedback about that conversation with Rebecca Zardigan last week and her book, I
Nice.
Got to Tell You. Yeah, didn't we? It was, but what I noticed that many commented on Beck's courage in the way she was willing to share her journey and experiences,
Yeah,
but also her willingness to be vulnerable
yeah,
and not feel like she had to have everything perfect. I guess that's one of the things, even as a mother, I'm always inspired by the way she thinks outside the box. So, but today we're talking abundance, and the beautiful energy of abundance.
And you know what you just described about you and Beck going out, and I'm aware you walk on the beach, and to me that's abundance. That beautiful connection with family and the ocean that's just ever flowing, and yeah, it's beautiful. To me, that's because there's
Yeah.
abundance. People I think money only, and there's just so
Oh,
much more
yeah.
to it. Yeah,
I think that's the thing, isn't it? We've come through a period in life of scarcity, which is the
yeah,
opposite of abundance, and because of world wars and depressions
mm-hmm.
and everything else, I think we had belief around it was not easy to earn money. Even around some of the sayings that I know in my family, it was like, well, money doesn't grow on trees and you have to work hard to be successful. And even the old saying that, who do you think you are, Rockefeller? So it was
Yeah.
like as if you're ever going to have abundance.
It's that.
But that was all around money.
Yeah, it's that polarity, isn't it? It's that way to get you trapped into the haves and have-nots, and money's evil or good or right or wrong. Yeah. Instead of just
I
choice,
know.
right?
Well, money's a thing. It's a medium of exchange, but abundance is an attitude and a bountiful feeling. It refers, in my experience, more to the state within us than to a worldly achievement. So I only understand that now in later life.
There was this moment that I realized that money doesn't actually solve the problem. It's actually you that does. And I think we put so much power on money as a thing rather than realizing that we're the source that creates and money is just the exchange. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I really, in a spiritual sense, the word abundance has been used and in a way that it's less about material conditions, but more about appreciation of life and its fullness.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so I understand
true
what
wealth,
you're saying.
where you just have this generosity
Yeah,
of spirit, and there's an ease and joy in everything that you be, no matter what shows up,
I
it's
love that. I read somewhere that it's the cultivation of respect for the creative energy of the universe.
creative.
It's nice, eh?
I like the creative energy of the universe thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I knew you would because you love talking about energy.
yeah, because I've realized more and more that money, or the energy of money, it's really about us being willing to receive it. The energy's there. It's like sunshine. You can, how much sunshine are you willing to receive versus there's no sun, or there's only a limited sun, or only some people get sunlight. It's like, no, the sun is there for everybody, and it just shines and shines and shines. It's about you. How open are your molecules? How open are your doors that you can receive this abundance? And the crazy thing is for me, and I got it cognitively, but it's not until it shifted energetically for me. But when I actually got the energy of receiving and how you cannot contribute. And I spent so much time looking at why can't I contribute and how can I contribute, and just judging myself on that versus actually receiving. And when you receive what, you've got so much to gift.
Mm. Yeah, that was something I had to learn, actually. It was difficult because we all love to give, but some of us find it difficult to receive.
Some?
And, well, probably, yeah, I'm probably not the only one.
I think you can count yourself in a large percentage of the population.
Yeah, well, there you go. You think it's all about you, but then you think, oh, no, I can't do that. But I actually now, when somebody gives me something, I'm very conscious that I can actually just say thank you without feeling I've got
I've
to
really
offer
been looking at that.
back.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah. It's such a different world. And this is about the receiving element. If you can't receive a compliment, how are you going to receive $100,000? You know what I mean? If you can't say, when someone says it's a beautiful dress and you go, oh, this whole thing, or, why do we do that? Let's stop doing that. Let's choose different.
Yeah, I really, it's so good. And I don't know what it is about receiving compliments. I think that's another whole story, actually. There's a lot.
It's
there's
receiving.
A lot in that, isn't
it's the inability to receive. And really that's based on our judgments that, whether we're worthy or not worthy, or the polite thing, and what I realized, it was actually my very close girlfriend that she gifted me, this is years ago now, but it was the start of me going, oh my gosh. She gifted me this crystal necklace. And we walked into this shop, and I told her about this necklace that was sort of calling out to me, a pendant, I should say, that was calling out to me. And I'm not a jewelry person. I don't like things around my neck or ears or wrists. I'm it's very unusual for me to choose a pendant. And anyway, I walked in there, and she was going in there for herself and to have a look at things if there was anything for her. And I just happened to point that out. And anyway, next thing I know, I didn't know, because I went to buy something, and the shop lady said, do you want to wear that now? And I said, what are you talking about? She said, oh, your friend's just bought you. And I turned to my friend, and I can remember this really clearly. I went, no. Like 3 no's came out of my mouth. And she looked at me and she goes, thanks for ruining that for me.
Oh.
And I just was gutted. And it was the best thing that I ever experienced. And because I got in that moment, it's not about, you can go, oh, I don't, can have all the languaging of, oh, no, she shouldn't do that, or she's done so much for me already, or whatever it is, right? That's all your stuff. However, let's think about the other side. And if someone's just in the absolute joy of giving, and you shut them down with a no, and even if it's a compliment about your dress, they're feeling so good. Oh, look at you in that dress. You look great. And there's this beautiful, joyous, creative, generative energy. And you go, this whole thing, or look at that hole, or, or whatever it is. It actually hurts. It hurts the other person. And
if it's not received well,
not received. Yeah. And we don't think about that. And so I'm so grateful she said that. And I turned it around, and it was the best. I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful she expressed herself that way, so I could really get.
But I also know that sometimes there's an energy around giving that is not okay either. So it all depends on
You're talking about give and take versus gifting and receiving.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah, when it's got agendas or control, like I'll give this to you. No strings attached. Honest, and you can just feel this.
Yeah, there is an energetic link there somehow. But I know what you mean, and I'm sure. One of the reasons that we should be checking in on our beliefs is just to see if they're still working for us, because we have inherited a lot of those, haven't we, where our behaviours have become what we think is true, but it's not necessarily still true for you or others. So it's great that we're just conscious in every moment to check in on that energy stuff. One of the things, I remember reading something that says, well, how do you develop abundance in your life? And this was so simple when it just said expand the energy of abundance and eliminate the energy of scarcity. And I went, oh, that sounds simple enough. But then when I read some more about that, well, what does that scarcity and abundance look like. And I'd love to just read some of the things that somebody wrote, because as I said, I've never had language around it, a lot of things. But when I read this, it just resonated with me. And from scarcity, it's you're the victim. You're either a victim, a bully, or you're simply checked out if you're in that. If you have a point of view of scarcity, and if you have a point of view of abundance, it's like you're in the driver's seat of life. And I went, oh, I can relate to that. And then it went on to say about the physical energy, and here we go about energy again, but it means if you're in scarcity, your body would be contracted. So you'd become small, you would have tense shoulders, clenched jaw, and you'd be short of breath. But if you're in abundance with that energy, you'd be relaxed and alert, expansive posture, and you'd be just grounded and balanced. You'd be fully present, breathing deeply and evenly. And I went, whoa, how? And then it started to occur to me about this affects our health and well-being.
Yep, sure does.
Well, and I hadn't it's like, okay, I hadn't connected the dots really until I started to see this. So if we have an abundance mentality, then it's actually going to create greater in all areas of our life. As we've said, it's never just about the money. But, and I don't know, but this one is an emotional energy of scarcity, is about you're draining the energy in the room, and you're feeling frustrated, you're impatient, anxious, afraid, overwhelmed or angry, and powerless. And you're giving your power over to what the group thinks and to pressure. And I thought, whoa, I know that feeling.
Wowzers.
Yeah.
It's nice when people actually put words to things to help people out. Go, okay, that's, you know.
Because, you see, this is something I was talking to my sister about the other day about, as we were growing up, we never had a vocabulary around needs. It was not okay for us to have needs. Our job was to look after somebody else's needs. And I realised that if you don't have a vocabulary around things, then it's difficult to change. So, you know, in a child...
Sorry, go.
Go ahead.
No, honey, go.
Oh, well, I'm just saying from a child's perspective, and I know our little one, one of our little ones had said to his mum, you know, give me some strategy for how I can handle
I
this.
love it when he says that.
I know, I do too.
So good.
But I also got that it can be, you know, a little symptom of trauma. And it's like, how do I stay safe here? And if he thinks he's got something in his toolbox to cope with something, then, you know, it's just an energy. I think that's what I would call a scarcity energy, because it does go into that anxious and afraid and overwhelmed and powerless, you know. So you start to sort of see how all these things are linked, hey?
Definitely. You know, for me, poverty consciousness is an addiction. It's actually a voice of trauma. And, you know, it's the way I read a book, and I'm totally stealing this author's analogy. I love it so much. And forgive me, I didn't know I was going to be saying this. So his name is Richard, and I don't know how to pronounce his surname, Schultz. But he's got a couple of books out there, and No Bad Parts is one of them. So hopefully, with that information, we can pop it in the links too. But he talked about the self, you know, when he talks about the self, he's meaning that infinite being, you know, when you pass over that ever, that essence, if you like. And he said it's like the sun, and the sun never changes as far as it's always shining. However, if you've got trauma, and this is my little additive, it's like if you've got trauma and you imagine them as clouds. So it's so you can look at that and go, wow, the sun's either gone completely. In other words, I've got no connection to myself, that part of me, that infinite part of me at all. Or it might be that you've got, you know, decent clouds, but so you're getting little glimpses. And my awareness is that when you have a lot of those clouds and you've just lost sight of the sunshine you are, and the sun isn't broken. at all. And we can think we are when we have, trauma, etc. And so one of the things is addictive compulsive, and addicted to poverty consciousness is definitely one of them. and you're looking at the clouds instead of actually realizing you're the sun, that you can actually be you and shine.
Well, that fits with the emotional energy in this other article that I read, and it talks about how you energize and inspire others, and it's like you're feeling empowered and positive, and like you're working on something bigger than yourself, and that you're excited about the challenges and the growth ahead. So you get out of judgment, you become totally present, and just be in the moment without thinking, what strategies am I going to use to survive this or to deal with this? Because they're going to come when you need them. I love that. But, and the last one that I wanted to share with our listeners as well is about the mental end. This has all been new to me, so I just wanted to share it. I think
love that.
Such a good thing when we can get some language around things, isn't it? But the mental energy of scarcity, that's where we feel confused or disorganised, or we're narrow in our thinking and we're only focusing on what's not working. And the typical thought pattern, and it seems relevant for everything in life at the moment, is I have no choice.
Yeah.
Whereas the abundant mental energy is around the feeling of clarity. You have the ability to perceive multiple angles and listen actively and notice what others are not seeing. It means you're flexible and adaptable. And then your typical thought pattern is, I always have a choice. If I were to notice something new, what would it be? Yeah. And it's also, you have this is priceless, a non-judgmental beginner's mind. So no matter your age, you're always willing to be in a position of a beginner in relation to that moment in time. So we don't have to come at it with, this is how much I know. It's like, what's possible here today that I didn't know before?
Yeah, it's getting out of the conclusion and being in the question, right? That curiousness, like, what can show up today? There's no conclusion, of how it should be or what you're willing to receive or not. It's just this playful, universe. and when you talk about no choice, I know we've all been there. I've been there, and I realized that no choice is a choice. And it's really all about energy. When you've got no energy in your system, it's in my interesting point of view, if you have no energy, then you have no choice. You feel like you have no choice. And if you have more energy into the system, you'll have the ability to go from no choice to true choice.
Absolutely. It frees up, I was watching somebody do something. He said, well, first of all, let's just get up and move the energy and do some star jumps or just dance or do whatever. Yeah. And I think it was on a Zoom call, and they showed photos of other people who'd left their video camera on. And people of all ages were dancing. But as they did it, I became really conscious of how the energy shifted.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, wow, I can now think more clearly. So
exactly.
I really get movement means so much to us, doesn't it?
I do this, I grew up with Wonder Woman, and, when she'd twirl.
Oh, lovely.
And you'll be surprised. I mean, the dervish dancers do that as well, but there's a very big difference when you're just walking normally, autopilot walking, comfortable walking, and when you do something different, your body goes, whoa, hang on, what's happening? And it just brings more energy in. And so, those out there, why don't you try it, even if you're male? Why don't you try a superwoman or a superman twirl? And you'll notice the difference, the influx of energy. And it's funny.
I've heard you say that, and it's so true.
As you were talking about these, emotional energy, mental energy, etc., what I'm hearing is, the scarcity mindset, or the poverty mindset, is actually dense, no energy. And if you want to use the analogy of Richard, the author, it's the clouds. It's you focusing on the clouds and not you, not being you. And when you're being you, on the other side that you were describing, the abundance, that's the sunshine. And as I said, you're not broken. So when you choose to be you, you choose to be the sunshine, the clouds aren't there. You're being the sun. However, there's choice and energy there. That's,
Yeah.
It's hard when you're in an eclipse to see the sun, right? So I get it, guys, depending on where you're at.
Oh, wow. I know that something else I read about some ways that you can create that abundance mindset. And one of them is about recognizing the power of your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly what you're talking about. If you're thinking you're the clouds, then So, but another way too, and I love this about ways to live an abundant life, is about making the best use of your time. How often do we sort of just almost wait out the day or fill it in by watching mindless something? But I really get that, and that's okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But when it becomes a reason not to engage in your life, because as we've said before, we've only got one life as this person, and so if we're going to not be intentional and live it consciously, then it's not going to, I just think when we get to the end, how do we want to feel? So if there's business that feels like it's undone, then perhaps, and we've decided we don't want to feel like that, then perhaps we need to think right now about, okay, what is it that I do want? But the other thing is about knowing our own unique strengths. And often we get to an age where we think, I'm past that, or I'm too old for that. Well, I guess we are then. is what I would say.
What, you are your thoughts?
We don't need to be. Yeah.
I'm sounding British all of a sudden.
So, yeah. And another one was forgive and forget, which, I'm not too sure, some people make that mean that it's cancelling out what happened, but it's not. It's really just saying, I'm not going to let that impact me anymore. So staying away from doubt and fear, hey, they're all about the mindset and recognising that power of our thoughts. So
it's interesting as you're talking. What's coming to me is the gift of particle versus wave, and I don't mean it necessarily like how science talks about it, but it's the density of all the space of possibilities, particle or wave. But I tend to use particle and wave with my clients because we have parts, we have voices of trauma. And so, if you have a part, from just, you've left the oven on, or check this, we think it's who we are, but they're actually parts. And so if you've got a part that's addicted to poverty mindset, or a part that's addicted to watching way too many films or whatever it is, that's not your sunshine. That's just you doing the best you can with the voice of trauma to cope with. And depending on what's happened to you, of course, there might be parts that you don't want to know about, and what I would love to invite people to is every part of you is beautiful, even if it doesn't feel it. And yes, you can choose to, move those clouds away, which is trauma work, or you can choose to just be the sun, depending on where you're at. Because of course, on your energy levels, it's very, when people go, just leave for a domestic violence, that's like when you've got an eclipse and they go, just go to the sun. What sun? I can't see a sun. So it's impossible in that moment for that person to have access to the sun. They're in an eclipse, for example, but depending on how much energy you have and how much possibility. But there's definitely, you can choose to focus on the particles, which is, that density, etc., or you can choose to actually be present to the waves. And that space between, and that's where I'd love you guys to go. If you're feeling like, I don't have any money, that's you focusing on the particle. That's just a point of view. It's a density. It's a conclusion. It's a thought. And there'll be space between those molecules that if you are willing to be in that space, you'll start to see other molecules. And some of those other molecules, or I should say particles, might be, let's do this. What's possible here? I'm curious. What other choices do I have?
Oh yeah, but sometimes you peek out and you think, I don't want to do that today. That's okay.
Well,
too,
what you just described is a part. So the sun, it doesn't have those conversations. Like I've got a regular Zoom. I call them the poppers, our weekly poppers group, And
Yeah.
one of the girls said, the universe keeps telling me and it gets stronger and stronger, and then it finally slapped me on the face. And I said to her, no, the universe doesn't do that. And she's like, what? Tell me more. And I said, the universe is ever giving. It's ever giving. And it doesn't have a point of view. It doesn't go, oh, I need to give you more information and I'll give it to you firmer and firmer, and then I'm going to slap you across the face. That would be a part that actually says, you know what, I'm not going to change until it looks like this. And for you, it looks like a slap on the face. For others, like I hear it with DV, I won't leave until the kids are 18, or I won't leave until he breaks bones, or she, I'm very aware it's both. So it's really about, what do you choose and how much energy do you have, and go for the lightness always.
Yeah, I love that. You've often said about, you can't leave a situation if you don't have the energy. So,
you can't.
And
you can't have choice.
Not just relating. Well, and it's not just relating to DV. It's about anything in life, isn't it? With any sort of trauma. So what do you think about some home play then, Grace? I think you've just highlighted a few things we could do.
Follow the lightness.
Follow the lightness, hey? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, look for the space. Look for the space.
The difference in feeling, isn't it? Because you know whether it feels light and you can, or you're just heavy and dense.
I've got something. It does have a wee little bit of a story first. It's Brene Brown. I love her.
Yes,
she was talking about foreboding joy. And I think a lot of parents, she used this example of she used two examples, but one was Oprah, and she was offered to speak at Soul Sunday in Chicago, and as she was leaving her husband, walking out of the door, she turned around, and I can't remember his exact words, but it was basically, look, honey, the chances of me getting to Chicago are slim, and this is what we do. We can't, when something really good's about to happen, we go, oh, something bad's going to happen. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to die on the plane or whatever it is. And then she gave another example of her children, or her daughter or whatever whoever had visited, and they were leaving with their partner. And as they're getting into the car, and as soon as she just said getting into the car, as a mum, the first thing I went to is, oh God, because we think, oh, I don't want them to have an accident, right? And she says, and this is how we're actually trained. Our brains are trained to look for the problems. And it came right back from the caveman days, where you're always looking out for the bear, or the monster that's going to get you, the animal that's going to attack you. And we're wired that way. And what she said is she's worked out the antidote to foreboding joy, so you can truly just receive the joy of the moment and don't mess it up with, she's going to get killed in a car accident, right? Or whatever it is. I'm never going to get that book interview because I'm going to die in a plane crash beforehand. And she said it's gratitude. So maybe this week's home play can be anytime you have, whether it's foreboding joy or a heaviness or a twistedness, be grateful. And she goes on to say the story of they're starting to get into the car, and she starts calling out, because she's got this foreboding joy. She's calling out, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your car. I'm so grateful to have seen you. I'm so grateful, so grateful. And her partner went, is your mum okay? She's like, no, she's just doing the gratitude thing so she doesn't go into the, the doom and gloom of us never seeing each other again because we're going to die. And we do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes,
so choose gratitude.
Yes. So focus on gratitude to create
and
an
the space of possibilities.
Yeah, I love it. And also surround yourself with people who have that abundance mentality. I think it can be draining, as we said before, if all your friends and family have got a scarcity emotional feeling about it, then life feels hard. So just notice. Just notice where you feel light and expansive as well. So that has worked for me, I know. So, well, thank you, Grace, for today. And I like that home play. So we'll look.
Well, I'm adding in yours I'm adding in something you just said, because have a look at who's around you, and how much space is in their universe. Are they spacious, positive? Do they have energy, or are they more dense, worried? Buying into that forebodingness. And maybe look at bringing in people into your universe that have that spaciousness. And it might even be like, you don't have to actually meet them. there's lots of authors and people online that you can connect to them energetically, and then they can, you know, you can receive their space that they function from, you know.
Ah, that's doable then, isn't it?
It is.
You don't need anybody
You don't know
else
excuses
to do that.
then, right? You can be on the couch meeting some really spacious, delicious person online, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've got more choice, and I just from that, it can be that simple.
It can.
It can blow away those
Grace.
clouds.
Well, we'll talk next week, hey? And I hope you
Sounds
enjoy
like
the
plan.
rain.
Yeah, I'm loving the rain. I'm definitely going to go outside. It's, you know, when raindrops fall on your skin, it's just beautiful. You know, just allowing that. Of course, not when it's cold. If you know, if you're living in a snow environment, and rain might not be your greatest choice to be out there with, you know, letting it fall all over your body. But definitely, yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you allow, you know, that connection with nature. That's abundant for me.
Grace, just before we go, I know it's your lovely dad's birthday today, and he's not long passed over.
Yes,
he helped in your development of abundance, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just a beautiful father, a beautiful man, and abundant on all levels. You know, he'd share his wisdom. He was always helpful financially. He's just a beautiful man, a real generosity of spirit. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he did well. He's got a beautiful daughter that I know.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. All right, sweetheart. Well, we'll talk again soon.
Okay, take care, and thanks, guys, for listening in. Bye.
Bye.